I was breaking up an old bathtub on my driveway when something fell out of it wrapped in plastic cash, a cheap phone I'd never seen before, and a folded piece of paper with my own name on it. I'm 62 years old. I've been married to the same woman for 19 years, and in the next 10 seconds I realized she had been planning to take everything from me. My name is Walter Hayes, and until that Tuesday afternoon in Phoenix, Arizona, I thought my marriage was one of the few stable things left in my life. The bathtub was supposed to be a surprise for Karen. Nothing more. She'd complained about the old one for years, said the stains made the bathroom feel tired, said stepping into it every morning reminded her how old we were getting. So while she was away in San Diego for a work conference, I decided to replace it myself. That's the kind of husband I've always been. Not flowers, not poems, I fix things. By noon, my back was already screaming at me, but I finally got the old tub disconnected and dragged it through the hallway toward the driveway. I should have asked for help. Instead, I tried muscling it alone like I was still 40. The thing slipped from my hands and crashed onto the concrete so hard, the side split open instantly. And then I heard it. A soft rustling sound. Something slid out from inside the hollow edge of the tub, wrapped tightly in cloudy plastic. At first, I honestly thought it was construction debris left there decades ago. But when I crouched down and picked it up, I knew immediately this wasn't accidental. It was hidden, carefully, deliberately. Inside the plastic was a black zippered pouch, and inside that pouch, cash. Stacks of $100 bills held together with rubber bands. Underneath the money sat a cheap burner phone. No case, no contacts, no lock screen, and beneath that was a folded sheet of printer paper with one word typed at the top: timeline. I remember the heat that day being over 100 degrees, but suddenly my hands felt ice cold. I unfolded the paper slowly. There were dates listed down the side with short notes beside them. Re-engage after argument. Push refinance discussion. Keep tone supportive. That line stopped me cold. Keep tone supportive. Further down the page, the notes got worse. Confirm Walter's signature. Transfer funds after approval. And at the very bottom, final step. That was the moment something inside me shifted. Not anger. Not yet. It felt heavier than that. Like suddenly realizing the person sitting across from you at dinner for nearly 2 decades had been reading from a completely different script. 6 weeks earlier, Karen had brought refinance paperwork home and slid it across our kitchen table with a soft smile. "This is for our future, Walt," she'd said, and I signed where she pointed. Because that's what trust looks like after 19 years. You stop questioning small things. You stop imagining danger inside your own home. If you've ever trusted someone that deeply, subscribe to this channel because stories like this aren't just entertainment for some people, they're warnings. I sat there in my driveway staring at that cracked bathtub while the Arizona sun slowly moved across the concrete. Then I picked up the burner phone and pressed power. And when the screen lit up, my entire marriage started coming apart piece by piece. The phone had only one message thread saved. 2 letters. Walter. I tapped it with my thumb and immediately wished I hadn't. The latest message had arrived that same morning. "Schedule still good for Monday?" Karen replied 3 minutes later. "Yes, he's relaxed again." Relaxed. That was me. I kept scrolling. "Don't pressure him too much this weekend," Mr. wrote. "Pacing matters." Karen answered almost instantly. "I know he trusts me." I leaned back against the kitchen counter and stared at the screen while the coffee beside me went cold. 19 years, and somewhere along the line, I had stopped being a husband to her. I'd become a process. A sequence of reactions she already knew how to control. The messages stretched back months. Carefully timed conversations about refinance paperwork, retirement accounts, home equity transfers. Nothing emotional, nothing romantic. That somehow made it worse. This wasn't passion. It was strategy. Every message read like 2 people coordinating a business deal. One line hit me harder than the rest. If he hesitates, remind him about security and retirement stability. That always works. That always works. I read it 3 times. Then I looked around my own kitchen like I didn't recognize it anymore. The same magnets on the refrigerator, the same clock ticking above the stove, the same life. But suddenly everything felt staged. I called the only person I trusted enough to hear this, without thinking I'd lost my mind. Frank Delgado, Retired Phoenix detective. We'd poured concrete together back in the 90s before he joined the police department. He answered on the third ring. Walter, everything okay? I almost lied. I almost said yes out of habit. Instead, I told him about the bathtub. The cash, the phone, the timeline. Frank stayed quiet the entire time. That silence scared me more than words would have. Finally, he asked one question. Did the messages mention money movement? Yes. Another pause. Then he sighed slowly. Walt, this doesn't sound emotional. It sounds planned. I closed my eyes. That bad? At our age, he said quietly. Affairs usually aren't about excitement anymore. They're about exits. That sentence sat in my chest like a brick. Frank told me not to confront Karen. Not yet. People doing this kind of thing prepare escape routes, he said. The second she realizes you know, evidence disappears. So what do I do? You stay calm, you document everything. And tomorrow morning you call a lawyer. I barely slept that night. Every sound in the house felt different. The air conditioner kicking on, the pipes shifting in the walls, the empty side of the bed beside me. Around 2:30 in the morning, I went back through the messages looking for a name connected to Mimsar. That's when I found Dallas mentioned twice, alongside the words advisor and transfer approval. So I searched. 20 minutes later, I found him. Michael Reeves, independent financial consultant, mid-50s, perfect white smile, professional headshots that looked too polished to trust. Hand buried halfway down the search results was an old complaint involving unauthorized account restructuring. No charges, no lawsuit, just enough smoke to tell you there had probably been fire somewhere. At sunrise, I called Frank back and gave him the name. The line went quiet again. I've heard of him, Frank finally said. Guy's careful, knows exactly how close to the line he can get without crossing it. Then he lowered his voice. Walter, I think your wife's trying to move assets before ending the marriage. Hearing it out loud nearly took my breath away. Not because I didn't believe it anymore, because I did. That morning I drove to our credit union and casually asked whether there were any pending applications connected to our mortgage. The teller smiled politely and then hesitated. That hesitation told me everything. Something had already started. When I got home, I checked the filing cabinet in the hallway. One folder was missing. The refinance packet Karen had shown me weeks earlier. Gone. I stood there staring into that drawer longer than I should have. You know what hurt the most? Not the money. Not even the lying. It was realizing how many tiny moments suddenly made sense all at once. The late-night phone calls she took outside. The way she'd started turning her phone face down. The sudden interest in retirement planning, after years of never mentioning it. The way she'd become softer whenever she wanted me to sign something. Keep tone supportive. That line echoed in my head over and over. And somewhere deep down I realized something terrifying. This plan hadn't started recently. It had started long before I found that phone. If this story is hitting closer to home than you expected, subscribe right now. Because sometimes people ignore their instincts for years, simply because the truth feels too painful to touch. Later that evening, I noticed something else hidden near the top of the printed timeline. 3 small words. Re-engage prior contact. Re-engage. Not begin. Not meet. Re-engage. Meaning Karen already knew this man before any of this started. I called Frank immediately. She had history with him, I said. Frank didn't hesitate this time. Then this wasn't a mistake, Walt, he replied quietly. It was a return. And right then, standing alone in my kitchen with that burner phone in my hand, I realized the woman coming home from San Diego the next day might not be the woman I'd spent 19 years loving at all. Karen came home Thursday afternoon acting exactly the same. Same smile, same travel bag rolling across the kitchen floor, same quick kiss on my cheek, like nothing in the world had changed. That was the frightening part. How normal betrayal can look when it's wearing familiar clothes. I kept my face calm. By then, every message from the burner phone had been copied, documented, and handed to a divorce attorney named Susan Keller. Karen thought Monday's meeting with Michael Reeves would finalize the refinance process. She had no idea I was already waiting for them there. Monday morning, we sat together inside a small conference room at the credit union downtown. Michael greeted me with a polished smile and started talking numbers immediately. Loan structures, equity access, retirement flexibility. Karen sat beside him, adding little reassuring comments at exactly the right moments, just like the timeline instructed. Then Michael slid the paperwork across the table toward me. I didn't touch it. Instead, I reached into my jacket pocket and placed the burner phone between us. The room went silent. Karen stared at it without blinking. Then I unfolded the timeline beside it. You forgot this inside the bathtub, I said quietly. For the first time in 19 years, I watched my wife run out of answers. Michael stood up first, trying to leave, but the conference room door opened before he could. Susan Keller walked in holding a thick legal folder, and just like that, the entire plan collapsed. A few weeks later, Karen was gone. The refinance was stopped. The accounts were frozen. The house stayed mine. And sometimes late at night, I still stand in that remodeled bathroom thinking about how close I came to losing everything because I trusted the wrong person too completely. If you've ever ignored your instincts because love felt safer than truth, subscribe to the channel. Because sometimes the smallest crack in your life is the one that finally lets the truth crawl out.